What would you say was your biggest break in the industry, though? What job opened up for you, your career, do you think?
Um, wow. In terms of people, maybe, like I said, like I've been working since I was 14 years old,
Mm,
uh, and pretty consistently working. But a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know me outside of, the theater industry or things like that. I would say the thing that's probably made me most known, I think, between doing Death Stranding with Hideo Kojima, and then Wednesday,
mm,
which I did for Netflix, was obviously one of the biggest shows of its season of that year when it came
mm.
out. It's like number one in 83 countries. Everybody knew Wednesday,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think that probably made people more aware of me.
Mm,
uh, and then when they recognize or see the name, then they kind of go, "Oh no, that's the same guy who was in Death Stranding, or who's the same
mm,
guy who did Gotham Knights," or do you know what I mean? And so it makes people kind of click, And I
mm,
think the name, I love my name, and I think it's a pretty specific
mm.
uh, name, So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say Death Stranding and um, Wednesday,
Wow.
those two projects.
And there's some big titles as well. I mean, what was the experience like working with Norman Reedus and Tim Burton? I mean, that must have been quite incredible to
Yeah,
do.
listen, I have a lot of respect for both of those
Mm,
guys. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I have a lot of respect for all the people that I've worked with.
mm, mm,
And I've learned a great deal, even just by work, even as long as I've been in the business. I always feel that there's something I'm still learning or picking up and watching how other people work, watching, how Norman works, watching how Matt Mikkelsen
mm,
works, uh, and Tim Burton working with him as a director.
mm,
These are all people I have had a great respect for before even getting a chance to work with them. Do you know what I mean? I've loved
mm,
the stuff that they've done, and I'm always an admirer of people who are fantastic at their craft, you
mm.
know, and it just goes to show the hard work that they put in, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience working with Norman, and like I said, and even with Tim. I think you, when you have the opportunity to work with people like that, I think I tend to go into it with the idea that uh, I know what I'm bringing to the table,
Mm,
and I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring to the table and how that collaboration will work
mm,
and
mm,
how it does work, and just being able to feed off each other.
mm,
Tim was great. Tim is a great director. He allows you to, he listens to you, and you have that opportunity to try things out, and work together. And I love that, when you have a director who's willing to hear your ideas or suggestions.
mm,
Some things may work, some things may not, but the thing about it is when they allow you the opportunity to try
mm,
those things, I think that's wonderful, you know.
mm. Yeah. Do you have any like on-set memories that you have working with them outside of work, like behind the scenes stories?
On set memories, no, I think certainly working with Norman and stuff on Death Stranding, we had some funny moments.
Mm,
It's all motion capture,
mm,
and I don't know if you're a gamer or if you've played the game or anything like that, but there's one of my or the biggest scene that I have is quite an emotional monologue that I have,
mm,
and we did it in one take, but we did a second one just for like safety. And I remember because of the gear that we had on, we our equipment got locked. So we
mm,
had these helmets with these microphones and cameras on it. And there's a bit where he has to pick me up off the ground, and I think our cameras got locked. They were like two stags,
okay.
with their horns locked together, and we couldn't break away. It took a little bit of time to do it, but we did it, and that was kind of a funny moment, because it came in such an emotional time in the
Mm,
scene as well.
mm,
But uh, everyone that I've worked with, I always have a great laugh.
mm,
When I did Wednesday, Gwendolyn Christie and I sort of hit it off quite well, and we were like like naughty school kids sometimes. We're always laughing off on the side
Mm,
somewhere, trying to pull ourselves together. And I enjoy that about work. I enjoy that when you can have that kind of relationship with people, it just makes everything fun. It just
mm,
makes everything more comfortable, a lot easier. And, it just kind of eases everyone into everything.
mm.
We're there to do a job. And of course we do the job. But at the same time, I think it's wonderful to be able to have that kind of camaraderie, you
Yeah.
know, laughing and enjoying the moment, basically.
Wow. You seem to be very proud of Death Stranding now as like a video game. I mean, how did the job come about? Like, what was the process of it? Was it auditioning? Was it word of mouth? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how did it all
Listen,
happen for you?
I have a great love for Death Stranding.
Mm,
And it was, and I did audition for it. I got through my agent, got sent a, a breakdown for the audition, and I had to film like two scenes, very nondescript. There
mm,
wasn't any backstory. That very little information was given to me, and I think basically it was like, do what you can do with this script, and
mm,
let's see what comes of it. I did understand he was a military guy, and so I took that into consideration. Uh, and so those things I kind of thought, well, I won't play too much emotion because usually military guys are just very matter of fact.
mm,
They don't let the emotion take them over. They've got a
mm,
job to do kind of situation. And so I took all those things on board, and sent the tape in, and I didn't hear for a while. And then I got a response back
mm,
saying they'd like to offer me the role. And I was thrilled. And at the time, I hadn't, I voice a lot of video games. I don't necessarily play a lot of video games, but I
mm.
love the video game world. And also, I mean, I have a hard time finding the time because I always got something else going on
Yeah, yeah.
to just sit down and play the game because sometimes it just takes hours.
Mm.
It takes hours to
Yeah,
to
no, it
do.
does. Just to complete
Yeah,
one game these days is
yeah.
incredible
It
amount of
takes a
time.
while,
Yeah.
and so I really, that whole process when I got the job, I didn't really wasn't aware of Hideo Kojima, and I knew he had done Metal Gear
Mm,
after the fact, and then I realized who I was going to be working for, and it was like, oh, that okay. So I met him, and he is absolutely a genius,
mm,
I think, in terms of I would love to be able to go inside his head and just see how things work because he has this incredible brain of, Death Stranding is a very complex story in some respects,
mm,
with the characters and what's all involved. And just how do you sit down and write this much
mm,
material
mm,
for a game and the story and the complexities of it. And each character was complex in their
mm.
own way, you know. So that was amazing to sort of have that time to work with him, and also because he has a translator when you're working on set with him,
Mm,
it's you kind of feel like you understand what he's saying because he's looking directly at you when he speaks,
mm,
and the translator is just there talking, and so you're basically I look at him, and there's just this understanding, and you can
yeah.
just see, oh, you just want to make sure that you do things the way he wants it done,
Mm,
because it is his vision, and so he knows what he's after. Like I suppose most directors, they have their idea of how they want certain things to come across and what
mm.
they want that character to be, and so I was there like a sponge,
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
just soaking up everything about it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few things like your character being like a military man, and but what drew you to the role the most? Like, what drew you to your character specifically to take the role on?
I think it was just the idea, as an actor, we often are auditioning constantly
Mm,
for roles, and whether those be for video games or TV or stage or whatever.
mm,
It just came through as an audition, and I saw it, and those types of roles are kind of in my wheelhouse. I tend to play roles like that of
mm,
political figures or mayors,
mm,
for example, and and also playing generals or colonels in
mm,
things. And so that
Yeah, you've had
I
a
understand.
few serious roles, haven't you? Like within the army genre kind of aspect,
Yeah,
I suppose.
yeah,
Yeah,
and certainly a few coming up with Mission Impossible
yeah, I
and
saw
Great
that. Wow.
Mission. Yeah, yeah, and so those I tend to get those roles when they come through for me as an audition. I instantly kind of know what
Yeah,
that character is going to be like.
yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I think what drew me to that was I knew who he was,
Mm,
but I also kind of thought I just need to keep myself distant of emotion with this. I don't need to embellish too much. Sometimes just saying the lines are
mm,
enough with the right gravitas. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? And it's just everything's just matter of fact. There isn't anything. Don't make too much out of things. Sometimes just say it with the right intention and with your stature and your presence. That says a lot more.
mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
But I think I got more excited about it after I knew what it was going to be and who I was going to be working for, and and so therefore it
That just
was,
adds to it, doesn't it? It just
yeah,
adds to it. Yeah.
of course, yeah. And I had no idea what the story was
Mm.
going to be until I showed up on the first day of
Wow.
motion capture. Really, I got a few things sent to me beforehand, uh, but they would sit down with us every day that we were there, and they would talk us through the section that we were
Mm,
going to be filming or doing motion capture for, and give us the backstory of what was going on because
mm,
there was no full script for us to just they don't hand you a full script for you to read the entire story. You get things sort of drip fed to you,
mm,
and all you need to know is what my relationship is to this person in this scene. Is there a backstory that I need to know about with the dialogue that I have to say? And that's
mm,
how it kind of works. And you just take it in steps,
mm.
and somehow it manages to come together.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Die Hardman is that he also serves as, I think he's probably got the second, if not the most lines in the entire game because he sort of gives Sam all of these missions to do.
Mm,
So his
mm,
voice is always in and out of the game, always there, and obviously through the cutscenes. But I made a conscious point to make him very emotionless
mm.
through most of all of that. And then at the end, towards the end of the game, his confession scene after he sort of becomes president, he
Yeah.
has a confession scene with Sam, and that is the first and pretty much the only time you see a man who has, for all intents and purposes, been this pillar of strength
Mm,
throughout and completely devoid of emotion or any of that kind of connection.
mm,
And you just see everything within him come
mm,
out at that moment. And you kind of go, oh, so he is human.
mm.
There are qualities about him. He does have some feelings, you know.
Wow.
Uh, but that was
Yeah.
hard to kind of contain, you know.
What aspects of his personality did you find most intriguing? Forgive me if you covered a bit of it already, but yeah, on
Yeah.
the personality side of things.
I think what I found intriguing about him was that he is very much uh, a man by the book.
Mm,
He's a man by the book, but there is something also that he carries with him that's a secret. That's
mm,
he's plagued by it, and trying to play that through, always thinking that there is something more to him that he never let on about until everything comes out. So the idea of knowing that each and everything that I had to do with Sam or the other characters was always to be this pillar of strength. On the facade, on the outside, there was no weakness of this man
mm,
whatsoever.
mm,
But deep down, there is this whole uh, sort of burden, I suppose, that he's been carrying all
mm,
this time. You
mm,
know, and I find that intriguing because it's one of those things where directors tell you, um, "Show us, don't tell us."
mm,
I mean, and those are things that are very intriguing for characters to play when you have a story arc and don't tell us how you're feeling. Don't over analyze it in a way and project it out. We with with words or actions. Just sometimes you just need to feel it, and then it will
Mm.
come across. Do you know what
Wow.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like there was quite a few shocking things, for the game and for you to be involved with it. I mean, you seem very proud and impressed
Yes,
by it.
a
Yeah.
100%. Well, today is the 5th year anniversary
Well.
of Death Stranding. So today is a very celebratory day for that. It
Mm,
doesn't feel like it's been 5 years
mm,
because it's just been it's been having this sort of resurge of it started on PlayStation, then they did the director's cut release, and then it's gone to Xbox. I think it's on there now.
yeah, just been released on there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like each year something constantly has been evolving with
Yeah,
it, so it's
yeah.
never really left the public's eye.
So it's
You
reminding
know?
a lot of people of your character as well, and bringing you to the screens again. It's never going to be forgotten, really. It seems
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah.
that's a wonderful feeling. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever felt so with all the work that I have done. I
Mm,
think the acknowledgement from the people in the industry, as well as a lot of the fans who are great fans of Kojima, and also became great fans of myself, which I'm grateful for. I love that people appreciate
mm,
my work 100%. We do it for the people in some respects, where we want to provide uh, entertainment that
mm,
takes you on a journey. Do you know what I'm saying? And so when people can express to me how it made them feel, or that particular, people have always talked about that. I always
mm,
call it that scene,
mm.
the monologue, the confession.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of has sent me, I would say hundreds, if not thousands, of messages over the last 5 years that still resonate, and they
Mm,
still talk about that particular scene
mm,
in the game, and it's wonderful, And I think it maybe because it was so unexpected
mm.
uh, after playing so many hours of the game with Die Hardman, in your ear the whole time, and then all of a sudden, you get this, and you just kind of go, "Wow, I did not see that coming."
Mm.
So I feel very honored that people, express their love for him and the character.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, how has its success impacted you personally and professionally as well? I mean, I'm sure it has a little bit. Yeah. If you want to go
Yeah, I
into it.
mean, I think whenever you do have the opportunity to do a job that becomes incredibly successful in some form,
Mm,
and you have a nice part to play in that, I
mm,
think it allowed me. What it did do in my voiceover career was it allowed me to be exposed to a lot of industry people who hadn't necessarily really known me before, and I'd still been doing voiceover work and games and things like that. But I think
mm,
because the game was so big and it was a Kojima game, I think it launched me a little further ahead.
mm.
Just like anything, some people get a big break and become a huge star in a film or a
Yeah.
TV show or whatever. And for me, I won't say that my career just shot to the heights, but what it did do was open. If my reps want to pitch me to a project, they say, well, he has done this, if you're aware of that. And no, some people who haven't played go, oh, well, I didn't know that. And, they'll be aware of it, and they might look it up and see some
Mm,
stuff on YouTube, go, oh, he was that guy, because
mm,
I spend most of the time in a mask,
mm.
you know, for the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then what's wonderful about the reveal, I suppose, is that it is my face.
Mm.
The likeness that they did of myself with that I thought was incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty accurate, weren't it, in the scenes?
Yeah,
Like you can see how accurate it is
yeah,
with you in there. Yeah, so I like that because they change it a lot of the time in a lot of the games, so it's nice to keep it to the actual person.
yeah, yeah. And I like it because it's almost like doing a movie,
Mm,
where your face actually gets seen and it is your face.
mm,
A lot of times they have already designed characters' faces and things like that. And I have done a game where I voiced characters that are already established,
mm.
and that's slightly different. It's nothing better than seeing your face, and also the technology that they
Yeah.
use. I mean, I just thought they had done a brilliant, brilliant job with it.
Mm. Wow. Um, going back to the start as well, you mentioned working on Wednesday as well, and working with Tim Burton and your character. What was it like being the sheriff? Like, because he was an iconic character as well, kind of similar to
Yeah.
Death Stranding's role as well.
Well, I was the mayor, and my friend Jamie played the sheriff.
Yeah,
So I was the Mayor Walker. And so, to be fair, that role was it was a great role to play because he too had a side to him that wasn't necessarily, on the up and up. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? It was something slightly sort of mysterious about him as well. I enjoyed it, and I think that the way the character came across and what he had to do in the show
mm,
was a great journey for me to do. It was fun to play, and also just because of the genre of the type of show it was, I hadn't done anything like that before,
yeah,
and I enjoyed that. And like I said, working with Tim was great.
yeah. And there was with your character as the sheriff as well. There was more of a emotional side of it. Um, I think wasn't there from watching your role
Um,
because you had your relationship with your son in there as well, didn't you?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, I
in
did.
the
Yeah.
show. Yeah,
So yeah, so I wasn't the sheriff. But you're to be fair, you are partially right.
I thought you was the
I
sheriff. I thought.
I used to be the sheriff.
Okay,
I
okay.
used to be the sheriff, but I am now the mayor of the
Yeah,
town.
okay.
Uh, so
Makes
there is a
sense now.
flashback.
Yeah,
There's a flashback where I was the sheriff,
yeah.
but I am the mayor of Jericho. And yes, there was some there was a scene with my son. It's a little concerned scene because he's kind of hanging around the other kids, and there's a lot of
Mm,
bullying going on. And I just want to make sure he stays out of trouble. And of course, Principal Weems is concerned about what's going on with him
mm,
and things like that. So, yeah, I wish there would have been a little bit more
mm,
of the story, but at the end of the day, the story wasn't about the mayor
mm.
or his son Lucas.
Yeah,
It's about Wednesday.
yeah.
It's their story. So I understood, but we were able to get a scene in, which is probably what my first scene in. I think in episode 3, I think it was, where we go. It's Pilgrim Day, I think it is, and I say to my son at one point, "Stay out of trouble," basically. And it was just having, and we asked for that. We asked, could we just have a scene of a father-son moment? It doesn't need to be anything big, but it just needs to be something that we feel attached to each other
Mm.
throughout. And they let us do that little scene at the beginning. Like I said, it was nothing, but it was just enough to establish when I talk about my son, we get a sense of a father son relationship.
Yeah, yeah.